Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Vanguard, a special crossover stream with Generational Change. Jen
Hello.
Perelman was actually one of our first guests ever on the Vanguard. We were actually just talking, apparently it was about a year ago to the day that we interviewed her. So we're super glad to have her back on the show for a third time, as well as her co-host, who we're super excited to meet and, broadcast to our audience as well. So how are you guys doing?
We're great. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
And I'm Peter, for those who
Yeah,
don't know.
this is
I don't
Peter.
usually like to announce my name, but
when we do our show, we do. He says I'm Peter, but Peter and I have been business partners for 2.5 years. So when I ran, it was really both of us doing that together. So he was my campaign manager. So I guess there's a lot of times where I just take it for granted that everyone knows who you are because you've been there the whole time. But yeah,
Jen's the star. We're just here to catch the coattails. That's all.
Well, I guess, yeah, one of the things that we were interested in, and I guess we can start off with a little bit of some news that, and then delve into some of the other topics that I know we're going to want to get into. But I wonder, Jen, you've been so active in your, support for the liberation of Julian Assange, and as well as speaking out as, how it's, just a human rights issue as well as a journalistic free press issue. Recently, this week on Tuesday, so what was that, yesterday, Daniel Hale was sentenced to just under 4 years for exposing the drone warfare crimes that happened under the Obama administration. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on that you could share with our audience that might be a little more, refined and insightful than Gavin and I have to offer.
I mean, I don't know that this is any different than how we treat whistleblowers in general. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. It's gotten worse. We're getting more authoritarian. It's not surprising to me, but I mean, people need to understand that this is the individual that allowed us to know that 90% of our drone strikes were civilians. It never ceases to amaze me, which to me is a war crime. Also, the fact that we're in wars in places where we're not legally in wars. So there's a lot of things going on there, but it's the common theme of shoot the messenger. So, instead of going after the people that are being exposed, it's much better distraction to call this person a traitor or whatever other language they use. And it was the same thing with Chelsea Manning. I mean, it's the same treatment. So I'm not at all surprised. It's upsetting, and now we'll just have to add one more person to a list that we have to be fighting about, but yeah, it's very frustrating.
Are you surprised at all by the lack of press that it's getting?
No. No, not at all. No one will know. They're going to sweep that under the rug. I mean, not at all.
And it's the downside of not actually, recognizing the dangers of prosecuting Julian Assange, because it's not just what's happened to Daniel Hale. Steve Donziger has been convicted for something that is not
contempt. He's been on house arrest for like 2 years on a contempt charge. Like, that's unheard of. It's a whole thing with that is crazy. But yeah.
This is,
and for people who don't know, Jen, you're a lawyer.
I
right?
am. I don't usually advertise that.
Oh, sorry, but I just mean you're well acquainted with the law. Is what I'm letting everybody know, right? So
fairly so.
The Donziger case is fucking crazy. You said there's basically no precedent for that, but I guess that that's another example of the fusion between, big business and the court systems in America. Obviously, we've had the complete stacking of the courts by the Federalist Society, which is another basically big business front for, corrupting the judicial system in America. But yeah, I guess for what's next for Steve Donziger then? He can't practice law anymore. He can't, what's he going to do now? Essentially, now that
I don't know. Really, the maximum sentence, I believe, for this was 6 months. And so chances are whatever happens in terms of what happens on an appeal in the interim, I can't imagine that they're not going to say it's time served. I would hope they would say it's time served. It sucks to have that on your record, and I'm sure he'll appeal that. And there's all sorts of nonsense going on, but it really goes to show you that our entire judiciary has been bought in a way that we've never seen this. I mean, and I am, I have Thurgood Marshall has been following me around since law school. Like, I'm a big fan of like brilliant judicial people. And even if I don't agree with them, like even Scalia was brilliant. And I didn't agree with him and I had a lot of issues with him, but he was smart enough to be where he was. And now we've lowered the bar with a lot of these judicial people that have never tried cases. They've never litigated anything. And then I don't know. I think we've really reached a very very new low in our judiciary. And unfortunately, a lot of those are for life. So, you know, people need to sit tight with this. It's going to be a long ride.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Well, I did want to go back to Daniel Hale really quick,
Yeah.
and we have some other stuff we want to get into in this live stream as well. We want to talk a little bit about Nina Turner, a little bit about some Florida politics that we were referencing before we went live. But I do think it's important that we, you know, educate people about this Daniel Hale case, and I think that actually Lee Camp, friend of the show, put out a great episode of Moment of Clarity where he kind of breaks down what's going on there. So I just wanted to play the first couple minutes. So just in case anyone's listening right now that really doesn't know what the fuck we're talking about, it's okay. Like you mentioned, the story is not really being covered by the media at all. But again, friend of the show, Lee Camp, does a great job of kind of breaking it down here. So I just wanted to play this real quick.
Buddy, welcome to Moment of Clarity. Please take a second to share this. Click subscribe, click the thumbs up. Really appreciate it. We got a lot of big news to get through on this episode. But yeah, let's get into just a lot going on today. Daniel Hale was just sentenced. You've heard me talk about him a bunch before, but this is the whistleblower who revealed a lot about our drone program, our killer drone program, our flying death in the sky, raining down fucking destruction and misery on people around the world. And he revealed a lot of the details about it that many people didn't know. Maybe the most important thing he revealed is that the military's own numbers show that over 90% of those killed with our drone bombs are innocent civilians. So their own fucking reports say that. And Daniel Hale was just sentenced to 45 months in prison for revealing the truth. Now, as far as I know, none of the war criminals that committed the crimes actually blew up the innocent civilians are spending time in prison right now. Just the guy that revealed it. Kind of similar to John Kiriakou, who revealed the CIA torture program, and the only person to serve time for the CIA torture program is John Kiriakou, rather than the people who actually commit the fucking crimes. So yeah, this has we got a trend.
Anyway, I think he makes a really good point there about how, you know, the actual criminals are free, yet the people that expose the crimes are now being persecuted. He goes on to make the point later in that full episode, which I would urge you guys to check out. He makes the point that, you know, we're taught growing up, if you see something, say something. Like that was this whole like campaign to, you know, if you see something going on, if you see crime, call the cops, whatever. Daniel Hale saw something wrong, something very wrong. And he said something, and now he's being sentenced to almost 4 years in prison for that crime. So I just think it's, you know, bears repeating how absolutely insane that is, and a grim reminder of the country that we actually live in.
It's the slippery slope. If you allow people to do what they do, you know, again, we don't, if you guys watch our show, we do not get involved in any of the drama, but when Cenk and Anna pulled what they pulled against Aaron Mate, that is when we get it. That is when you basically becoming what corporate media has become, which is basically an arm for the surveillance state. Anytime you step out of line with what the corporate narrative is, you're in big trouble. And any of these guys, you know, this is a warning shot. That's
right. We're not going to abide the smearing of good journalists when we don't have that many of them. Yeah. That's basically
whether you agree with them or not. Best argument made, I don't remember who made it, but the best argument to those who say, well, how do you know that Aaron Mate's reporting in Damascus is correct? Unless I say, well, if you're talking about TYT, they have the funding to have their own journalists go there and debunk it if what he's saying is lying, instead of just sitting in a studio and saying it's wrong. I mean, we're about common sense. Anytime you go after the First Amendment in capacity, this is what's coming. It's only going to get worse. Yeah. Because these type of prosecutions are basically saying, oh, you're next. So just be ready, because that could happen to any of them.
I do feel hopeful about Julian Assange, though. I do.
I do too.
I don't know why, but I just.
Hopeful as in you think he'll be freed, or hopeful as in, you know, you think people will wake up?
At the bare minimum, I think he'll be extradited back to Australia, and I think they'll just let him go. I think that's what's going to happen.
I think that, yeah, I think that right now they're trying to find a graceful way out of it without looking like they're ridiculous. So, you know, that's the convenience of the new witness coming forward, or the old witness with the new story and song and dance that he lied and all that. I think that Merrick Garland, even though I don't particularly love him, he's smart. And I think that he understands that, just like Eric Holder did, that this is not a winning, it's just not a good way for us to go as a country. And I think he knows that. But you have to find a way to get out of it without it looking like you're weak and dropping it. So I feel somewhat hopeful, certainly more so than I did, 2 years ago.
Fair, I think. Well, something else we really wanted to talk about, and that you guys have done a great job covering on your channel, is, of course, the Nina Turner campaign. And that election is coming up very, very quickly. It's right around the corner, and it's really gotten down to the wire. I think a lot of us in the early days of this election were pretty confident that Nina had it in the bag, and I still think she does, to be quite frank. However, the polling has really tightened up, and it looks like her opponent, the corporate-backed Hillary Clinton-endorsed Shontel Brown, has really, closed some of that lead that Nina previously had, over 30, 40-point lead that she had, at least according to her own polling. Again, Shontel Brown has seemingly closed that gap down to just a few 5 points. That almost falls within the margin of error, to be honest. So who really knows what's going to happen? Obviously, we're hoping, rooting for Nina to win the race. But I was wondering if you guys had any reaction to this latest story, which recently dropped, concerning Shontel Brown and potentially some corruption she's been involved in. It looks like she's facing a possible ethics investigation. There's been a couple reports out about this, but emails reviewed by the Daily Poster. Oh, shit, it went away. 1 second. Emails reviewed by the Daily Poster reveal the Ohio State Auditor's Office has reviewed allegations from a news article and recently referred the matter to the State Ethics Commission. Shontel Brown, a candidate in the Democratic primary for Ohio's 11th congressional district, voted as a Cuyahoga County councilwoman to approve more than $17 million in government contracts to the Perk Company, which is run by Brown's partner, Mark Perkins, according to an April 14th article by The Intercept. Brown also received $13,000 in campaign donations from the Perkins family and Perk's current owners, the Cifani family. So, in my opinion, that's pretty blatant, pretty obvious example of corruption, but I would definitely be interested to hear what you guys have to say on it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was just watching, I guess Kyle did something on this. And I think it's what really impresses me the most, or no, it was Jordan. I was watching Jordan. And is that Nina's fighting back. She's not taking this. She's fighting back and she's putting it out there. She's running these ads about her opponent, that is a step in the right direction. So when people say things like, oh, Nina's going to sell out or Nina is going to fall in line with the rest of them, I don't think so, because unlike other people, she's fighting back this. This to me is, obviously it's criminal allegations, and I don't see how, well, no, they get her in. She'd then she could be indicted or charged or whatever. And then they would have to, whoever the governor is would get to then appoint somebody to that seat, but this is.
Yeah, that's exactly what a red state like Ohio would love to have the opportunity.
Well, and so, that's what I think ahead of time. But I think Nina's going to win. And I think a lot of the negative looking polling things about that, oh, Shontel's, closing the gap. I think a lot of that is almost
manufacturing.
Well, it is. And it's that concept of, and they did it with Bernie too, where if you make someone's candidate look like they don't have a chance or they're less likely to win, people are less enthusiastic to come out and vote. It's sort of like people want to support the winner. And so this is a very old strategy where you have to make it look like the person isn't as viable. And really, they can't do that because she started out 30 points up. So, they're never going to say, oh, she's just not viable. So the next best thing is to just say how much the gap is closing and make it look like. So I don't know what to believe.
Throw as much mud to the wall and hope something sticks.
And look how much money has she has gotten behind Shontel.
Well,
like
not
millions
only that,
of dollars.
you've got, this is a second, people forget this is the second ethics violation. She actually was the chair of the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party, did not step down, was supposed to step down.
Yeah, she was running as the chair of the party.
That is something that Joe Crowley did when he ran against AOC and didn't pay the price. Well, he actually did pay the price.
That's not criminal. That's just a matter of it's against the bylaws.
But it just goes to show that there's not a line that she's not going to cross. I don't even like saying her name. Just say Nina's opponent. Nina's opponent went on TV and said, hey, Super PAC, give me money because I certainly am not capable of raising small dollar donations, and it's the only way I can compete.
I think ultimately the streets win. I do. And I think that in Nina's case, this is her territory. She is from there. These are her people. And I think this is not like somebody where she just moved there to run for this seat.
So are you guys concerned at all about the district being more of like a Biden blue than a Bernie blue? Because I have heard that repeated a lot too.
Yeah, you know what? And so is ours. So is our district. Yeah. And I don't think that if I had the same name recognition in my district that Nina has in her district, I would have won this seat.
That's true.
So for us, it was mostly, that's money and name recognition, and it takes time. Nina doesn't have a name recognition problem. She doesn't. Everyone knows who she is. So I don't think that the money, even if however much they outspend
That's
her.
also one of the biggest things about running for office that doesn't get talked about enough, because not a lot of people really understand the machinations of local county politics in terms even of a congressional seat, is that, and especially when it comes to labor only typically will back a challenger if the challenger is viable to win. That means they have enough resources financially to run ads, to do mailers, to have a ground game that's sufficient. There's a lot of components that go into it, and we support anybody who wants to run for office, but recognizing what actually needs to be done in order to be viable, in order to win, is very important. Nina is more than viable to win, but to me, Nina is not only the heir apparent to Bernie's movement, she's willing to go where Bernie was not willing to go, and they are deathly afraid of having a voice like hers that could potentially invigorate the movement for what I think is the 7-year itch, as I like to call it, because in 2028, I think Nina is the person.
He's dreaming right now.
I'm not dreaming.
No,
I'm just
I don't mean
saying
like crazy dreaming, but yeah.
But I do think that if
let me go ahead and provide a little bit of pushback, because I've been hot and cold on Nina Turner, as I have been with a lot of electoral politics, and I think a lot of people listening would feel that same way. There was a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration from individuals, because we've heard a lot of lofty rhetoric from people who have run for Congress in the past. We've had the good fortune of talking to Cori Bush, who I would say is probably our best representative in Congress, somebody that I look up to the most out of anybody that's been elected. She is as real deal Holyfield as it gets. She was a homeless mom with 2 kids in her car, right? She, was a Ferguson activist. She Black Lives Matter, like through and through. You cannot tell me that this woman is not serious about what the fuck is going on, right? And we had a great conversation with her. She was super generous with her time, told us that she was going to go into Congress and demand $2,000 retroactive checks, and that there was nothing that could stop her, that she was going to get in front of every camera that would allow her to, that she was going to stop at nothing to give people not $2,000 checks, but retroactive $2,000 checks, healthcare, to make sure that there was no continuation of evictions in the pandemic, right? And, people hear that and they trust you because you're a real activist. You're not taking corporate money. People who don't live in St. Louis sent Cori Bush money, right? And after she gets to Congress, right, she votes for the bill that does not give people retroactive checks. In fact, they get less money than even Joe Biden promised them. There's no holding up the vote for Medicare for all to force a floor vote. There's no holding up the $15 minimum wage. They even, in fact, told us all, Ayanna Pressley came out, and I believe it was repeated by Cori Bush, hey, we all vote alone. So they have all this lofty rhetoric during campaign season that we're going to go in there and we're going to be a coalition. And instead, we get a lot of, oh, well, our hands are tied, like, Mama Bear Pelosi, like Auntie Pelosi, all this kind of stuff that comes in. And that sours people. People don't want to fucking support that anymore. And I worry that Nina Turner is trying to float both of those lines, and she'll get into Congress and she'll give deference to somebody like AOC, who does not deserve Nina's deference, that she'll give deference to somebody who's been in Congress longer, instead of saying, no, you guys need to light a fire under her ass. Because even while campaigning, she said things like, oh, well, we have to have all the tools on the table. I'm going to disappoint you in Congress. Like, I don't know. So what would be your pushback to somebody who said, hey, we've tried all of this stuff. We have 7, people that are supposed to be representing us. That's not enough. What does 8 do?
I think that there's problems on both sides of it. So on the one hand, when you talk about what people are saying and what they're offering, first of all, I don't know why people do that. Especially people that do not know how things work and how they're going to end up getting things through in the first place. So, and I don't remember a single time where I ever said, I'm doing this or this or this. It's, I will fight for this. This is what matters to me. I will be your voice. It's not anybody who guarantees tangibles is just asking to, as far as I'm concerned, to just look like you're wrong. The other thing is, I think people put so much emphasis on one person, especially when it comes to a lot of the people that are coming up from the streets that do not have the experience, do not have the, Washington pedigree to be dealing with a lot of the stuff that they're now faced to be dealing with. I think there is definitely a certain amount of naivete on the part of some of these people getting in there. And that is something, by the way, that Nina doesn't have. So there are certain differences that are tangible regarding Nina in particular. But I think that, look, third point I'll make on this is that we believe and very much support every strategy that needs to be done to move things forward in the way we want it done. That means inside strategies, outside strategies, anything. I've got my yellow vest, like I'm ready to go. So like, I believe both strategies, but the biggest problem is when people that completely only ridicule the internal, the electoral political strategy, which we is definitely not the be-all end-all. It's very pathetic and it's not great. But in it, you cannot be the same as you would be outside of it. So it's sort of like people on the outside condemning the process and ridiculing the people in the process. But the process for them is different than the process from the outside. And both things are completely necessary simultaneously.
I'm going to give you guys an example of something that was something that I was privy to during the primary in 2016, as a matter of fact. There are 100 senators on Capitol Hill. There are only 2 of them who lobbyists do not approach. That is Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders. So the other 98 basically have what is the swamp, if you will, of Capitol Hill in their offices all day, every day, with millions upon millions of dollars. The system itself is broken. I don't want to necessarily say beyond repair, because it all depends on whether or not the people are ready to rise up. When that happens, then changes can happen.
Yeah.
What I would say in defense of Corey, in defense of Nina, and even in defense of AOC, and AOC definitely deserves a modicum of ire. There is no question that she does. But what I will say is where she makes her impact in a positive way. It's not on Capitol Hill, but in New York City.
Yeah.
The way that New York City has changed, infrastructurally speaking, in terms of politics, is unbelievable.
Huge.
Now, they may have a conservative mayor, but the city council has dramatically shifted. In Albany has dramatically shifted to the point in which the multiple state senators actually speak publicly about their disdain for their governor Cuomo, which is be considered.
New York is definitely the forefront.
I actually totally agree with that point. It's actually a point I've made on the Vanguard as it relates, especially to Cori Bush, because after her election, we saw the same kind of grassroots army that got her elected. They went on to elect, I believe her name is Tashora Jones, the new mayor of St. Louis, who's actually pretty based, pretty lefty. So yeah, that certainly creates that ripple effect where it gets people involved in activism. And then even after they accomplish goal A, they go on to then try to accomplish goal B. Certainly, I agree with that. That being said, I do wonder if Nina Turner really is going to be that much different than the squad members. Like in your guys' part of, what was that?
I do think so. I do so. If anything, and I think I say this as somebody that, like, if I were there, like how this would be for me is if she can get something done because of X, Y, and Z, she'll say, this is why we don't have this. I see her as being exceptionally transparent. So do I think she's going to be able to coalesce the 100 and something that claim to be in the Progressive Caucus, but yet somehow can't seem to stand for anything? I don't know. I think if, it takes one person to be a start for that. And I know that Nina is not bending a knee to Nancy Pelosi.
If you
She's
guys,
not Mama Bear, I assure you that.
If you guys ever saw an NBC interview with one of the biggest political hacks I've ever seen, and that was Hillary Rosen from SKD Knickerbocker.
I have to see this.
If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you look it up. It was the most blatant racist tyrant I think I've ever seen, and no one even at push back. And this white bread from the upper class suburbs is throwing these bars right at Nina's face, and the way Nina you could tell Nina wanted to give it to her, but she had the ability, pressure to just deal with this extremely privileged person who was basically, just carrying water for Hillary and then for Biden.
Nina Turner as a person. I absolutely love her. It was one of the highlights of my life seeing her actually live when we saw her at a Bernie Sanders rally in Iowa just a few days before the Iowa caucus. That was so moving to me. What I am interested in, though, and this is something I think you might have referenced earlier when you were kind of talking about 2028. Do you think there's any chance that Nina Turner, if she wins this race, will harness that additional clout it will add to her name to then, like you said, truly take up the mantle of Bernie Sanders, truly challenge the Democratic Party in a presidential run? I mean, I would love to see that happen in 2024.
I hope so.
When she was on her podcast, she said she would.
Look, you know what? I think it's not something she seeks, and that's the Nina. This is never about what she is seeking. It's about what she's seeking to do. Like, she's got a mission to do what she's got to do. It is so not about her. She is so like,
just look at the way A is at Nina.
Wow.
A is a sitting congressperson, and she's looking leader,
because she is the leader,
at the person who, please get into Congress so you can take pressure off my back, because I'm really not up for this. And that's okay.
And the truth is, like, I'm old enough to be Alex's mother. Okay. So I look at her and I think, okay, her level of maturity, wisdom, her capability dealing with being spotlight, her understanding of everything from civic to everything, corruption and filth. And yes, she's a bright girl. She is. She's not like girls of politics to that extent, you know. I mean, she's bright and she knows, you know, what's going on. But I think there's a huge, I think, maturity issue. Something, and I can only say this as a female person, something about women that get to a certain age and their lack of give a shit. And there's this like sort of inverse correlation. And so Alex still cares what people think. Alex is looking at where is this going to go for her career wise. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's not my thing, but whatever. So whereas someone like Nina, she doesn't need a career. She's good. You know, like, she's not looking to go climb the ladder. She'd rather someone else be doing this.
Well, I kind of hope she does climb the ladder. I hope she doesn't just get into Congress and then think, oh, well, now I'm going to spend the rest of my career sitting here taking
I think she takes it on.
If you were to ask, because a lot of people are they're disenchanted with the party, and rightfully so. But if you ask anybody who is the leader, I guarantee you at times you ask any random person, they would say Nina's the leader. Like, that's the person that you would gravitate to and say, okay, well, who's the heir to Bernie's movement if Bernie is no longer going to be that person? I just can't think of anybody else that you say, yeah, that's who I think.
No, you know what? We'll see. We'll see what happens. And maybe we're wrong.
And we'll be in Cleveland. We're going to, we'll be canvassing and working the polls for the final few days of the election, just playing our game. Because she deserves it. She really has. I mean, talk about somebody who just put herself on the line for the movement. I was at the People's Convention in Philadelphia in 2016, and I sat in the pew behind the podium. Tina Turner and Jill Stein embraced each other. And as soon as it happened, I said, oh, this is going to play at the convention, I guarantee. It not only played at the convention, they didn't even win. You could get the hell out. And so to say that Nina is willing to go to places that others are not willing to go, I do believe that she is. Yeah. I hope we're right. Yeah. If it's on us to keep her feet to the fire.
But Chantel answer. So given the options,
hey, I think we are having a little bit of an internet connection problem. Are you guys also seeing that a little bit of a connection problem? I'm having a hard time getting the frame to come into focus.
No,
ours is good. Gavin's good. Back, yours is off a little bit.
Yours is definitely glitchy, but then I think we're glitchy. I don't know why. We don't know why.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of glitch from you guys too. I don't know if there's an issue with the internet. I don't know if I'm just seeing that. If someone in the comments wants to let me know if you can hear everyone okay.
I'm not sure if there's anything we could do. I mean, we could potentially just drop to audio if we need to. Let us know, because again, image looks fine. And that's
yeah, but I don't know. Ever see it when we're not good. It always looks good on our end.
Choppy.
It looks choppy on the other.
How's
end.
Our audio?
People are saying the sound is a little choppy, and that's what I'm experiencing from you guys as well. It seems like I get what you guys are saying. It's just coming in a little bit glitched out. Anyway, it's not. Apparently, I'm the only one that looks good. So,
Well, let's hope. Like I said, our image on our end through our camera looks fine. I don't know any type of a connection we can do.
We need to upgrade our stuff.
Yeah, we do.
Well,
we're poor.
Very poor. So people subscribe.
Something I actually started doing that really helped was just plugging in an Ethernet cable. So if you guys haven't done that, I would highly recommend doing that.
I think my husband tried it, but it wasn't any different. It isn't our internet connection. It isn't our internet connection, and it isn't our camera. we can't figure out. We thought it was maybe something with our StreamYard, so then I cut out doing the 4.
No, we use a Logitech Pro, and that's supposed to be a good camera. But I think what we need to do, and we just need, we need to get a tech person to just come and look at and
we're just kind of
like a firm assessment.
It's not great, but I don't know what it is. I'm telling you, it's not our internet connection and it's not our camera. So if it's not those two things, I beg anyone knows the answer to this.
All right, so
we thought maybe it was happening as a stream because we had Twitch, so then stopped that, and it was for a bit, but then it was bad again.
Yeah. Is there any chance that you guys could jump back into the live stream real quick?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so we have your link. So give us 2 seconds. Let's probably just like refresh the camera. We'll be right back.
Just use the same link and come right back.
Yeah. Okay.
You got it, guys. Be right back.
I don't understand why they.
So yeah, sorry about that, guys. Always have internet issues. It's just part of the part of the deal when you're on independent media. So now it's me and Zach, and we're waiting for JENerational Change to return. So yeah, should be back in just a second here. Thanks, Brian, for the super chat, 199. Thoughts on Biden imposing new sanctions on Cuba? Absolutely ridiculous. Really genuinely crazy that we continue to sanction the sovereign nation. It's just disgusting, honestly. Did you have anything to say about that, though, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Gavin and I don't support any kind of economic sanctioning. It doesn't target the government. It targets the people. The idea behind economic sanctioning is that you're going to make it so painful for the people economically that this, who has control of all the resources, right? The opulent, right? So when you sanction a country, those people can weather the storm, right? They'll just continue to take from the poor. Who you're actually hurting are the actual people of Cuba. Who you're actually hurting are the people of Syria when we impose these sanctions. Who you're actually, do you think that the fucking president is feeling this? And not in the same way. The only thing they're feeling is political pressure. This is just not the right way to go about it. Certainly, it's not our job as America to orchestrate the affairs of another country, let alone making it impossible for them to survive. This is just a continuation of the legacy of the Monroe Doctrine, which basically said that the United States was going to impose its hegemony on its hemisphere. And, of course, we do that around the world to the best of our ability. As a nation, we make sure that we have our hand controlling every single country within, certainly within nearby proximity, but basically any country that's not already been
yeah, you guys are looking a lot better
this
now.
Looks way better to us.
You guys have any thoughts on Biden imposing new sanctions on Cuba? By the way, Brian just asked in the super chat.
Yeah, well, we're in South Florida.
Yeah, we just covered that.
This is a huge issue here. I mean, this is
well, you know what? That's actually a great segue to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, because
nobody needs to talk about her.
Could you?
Okay.
May I please?
Sorry.
So the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Michael Bloomberg are like this, and they've been that way for a long time. And Michael Bloomberg basically funded the Democratic Party because it's been broke in the state. Florida Democratic Party's been broke for a long time.
He bought it.
He basically bought it, and he installed,
like a football team.
Yeah, he installed a Republican.
Yeah, the chair of the Florida Democratic Party is a Republican.
And I happen to know his ex-wife pretty well.
Wow.
And so,
everybody knows her.
And she's a fixture in politics, and he was the mayor of Miami, and now he's running the party. And his message that he has put, I mean, listen, we could go into a whole bunch of different areas.
And he's Cuban, right?
Yes, he is.
He's Cuban.
Yes, he is.
This is where we're going.
And so as it relates to the Cuba message, if you didn't know who was actually delivering the message, you would think, based on our party chair's words, that it was Marco Rubio who was saying.
Yeah, our party, like the local Democrats, the local establishment here is very much supporting Biden on this. But that is not what the majority of Cuban people here support. And so there's this huge rift, and interestingly, it is generational. I mean, we see it in the Cuban community between old school Cubans that are still, and really, we've gone to every month at the end of the month, the Hands Off Cuba, Hands Off Venezuela has a caravan that goes down in Miami, and we've gone and done it a few times. And there is no comparison of the size between the people that are on our team. It's like a color war. It looks like one. They actually stand like facing each other like a color war at camp. And there's definitely much more people on our team than on the other team, way more. So even though that's not being portrayed in the media in terms of what that narrative is, That is the bulk of people. And it's no different for Venezuela too. Same thing. And the difference is it's a class thing, right? So wealthy white Venezuelans, wealthy white Cubans, which are generally the people that are here in terms of people that weren't able to be here. They want this. They want us to keep the embargo, the blockade. They want that. They're like sticking to it. But the regular people, they don't want it at all. And these are people that are worried about their family members that are there and how hard their lives are because of our blockade. So, I mean, it's a class thing. It's a class thing and a generational thing.
I'm all about common sense in politics, and the embargo. I
call it a blockade.
Maybe the best thing that Obama did during his presidency.
Yeah, that was actually a good
lift
thing.
the sanctions and allow the Cuban people the self-determination. Get the hell out of their business.
Why are we there?
It's just, I mean, to me, this is all common sense.
This is a pissing match that's been going on since the 60s.
And let me tell you, we deal, we have, even people that friendly with that are all about, the, end communism.
Yeah. Well, look, I up here, I was born here. I remember the boat left. I remember when Castro freed all of his prisoners and they came up on the shores of
and then we had Miami Vice and Scarface, and that's
so I mean, I remember, like, this is, the Cuba issue is huge, but we are seeing a change.
But the reality is, they're only saying part of the narrative. They're not saying nothing. They're pretending like, the embargo and the sanctions don't matter. And I've actually heard people say, no, you got to free them first, and then we can lift the embargo and the sanctions.
How do you free them?
What is the matter with you guys? And
you free them from us. First, we free them from us, and they can figure out, what else they're.
But that's a great example of American exceptionalism. This whole idea that, we get to do one, and if it was being you wouldn't like it. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, really appreciate that perspective, especially the South Florida perspective. And speaking of Florida politics, you guys actually wanted to spill the beans a little bit, I know, on a certain somebody. Obviously we just had these marches for Medicare for All going down, and I think everyone, at least everyone on Twitter, may have noticed this guy. We talked about him a little bit the other day on the show, but Jeff Campbell, by some miracle, he has not blocked me yet on Twitter, but here he is. And he's just been tweeting hardcore shit about the marches for Medicare for All, trying to demonize these events going on across the country as if they're not serious, as if they don't warrant people's time and participation. Essentially, it boils down to because of the fact that Jimmy Dore was involved. As we've seen time and time again, there are certain people on the left that just cannot get over the fact that Jimmy Dore is a thing that exists, that has involvement in, various movements like Force the Vote, like March for Medicare for All, etc. Anyway, so he spent like months trying to trash this march, trying to, get speakers to leave the march. He literally was like messaging people like Charles Booker, I think, trying to get him to drop out of speaking because of the involvement of characters like Dore. So weird behavior. Like I'm never one to, start accusing people of anything, but you definitely have to question this guy's motive. He's definitely made himself quite suspect in that sense. And you guys reached out and said you had some information you perhaps wanted to share on Jeffrey Campbell. So what's going on here?
So before Peter can explain this better than I can, but I just wanted to say I reached out to you guys because I'm friends with Katie Halper, and before you guys did your piece, I got a text from her. This was like 2 days before or whatever you guys did your piece. And she said, what's the story with this guy? And she showed me the thing from Jeff, and she knows that we know him and that, he's local to us. And that was, by the way, the second time within 2 weeks that people, nationally known progressive people in our community, have reached out to me via text and said, what's with this Jeff Campbell? And then there was the issue that when we had Savage Joy on the show, who was a friend who I always liked and always got along with, she comes on the show to talk about her book. Jeff comes on, which he never comes on our comment section, just basically to harass Joy. So then she ends up basically thinking that we were part of it. And I think she was just very raw. She's having a very hard time with stuff, whatever. It's neither here nor there. But she interpreted it like we were with him. Whereas, and I kept telling her, I am not affiliated with him. This man has been a liability to us since we decided to do a congressional run. He started, but He is what I call a pot stirrer as opposed to a muckraker. This is someone who just likes to stir up drama, create infighting. He sits like a troll, just constantly online, and has nothing better to do, apparently, than harass people that are trying to do something. I would suggest, and I said this when he was harassing Joy, that maybe certain people should get off of the Twitter and go and do, I'm sorry, I'm old, and go out and do something else instead of criticizing people who are doing things. But this crap went down with the Medicare for All march. We were reached out to on a national level by real progressives, the yellow vests, and people about doing an action down here. We then forwarded it to the person who is the head of our progressive caucus in the state, who's a local organizer, who's very involved in Medicare for All. She's union, like all of this. And then the next thing you know, they won't do it. And the reason they won't do it is because certain people, and of course, they're all kind of falling in line saying it was a group decision. We know damn well that it was Jeff basically having a tantrum about this, and ended up that South Florida didn't have a single event that was affiliated with the march. We promoted it for like a month coming up. We even did a 2 nights before, did a whole summit on healthcare promoting the marches. And it's just laughable that we didn't have one here. Tampa and Orlando did. And it's just unfortunate that we have trolls that live in our progressive community that are making things hard, and it's reaching national levels. I'm telling you, other people have reached out to me about this person. So, I mean, I don't know. And you, why don't you say?
Like I said, I've known Jeff for quite a while, and you know, I have conversations with him, and he always has these excuses about, well, you know, they're going to hurt the movement and this and that. And I'm thinking, no, this actually doesn't make any sense. And I particularly have a problem with the way he has gone after Joy. And I've tried telling him, you know, this person is literally living in hell. And the fact that you want to add to that doesn't really reflect well on you at all. And that's something that I just don't understand. But I think it really comes down to the fact there are a lot of people in politics who they want to be relevant. And
he did get pissed at me for calling him a dick. I called him a dick during the thing with Joy, and he actually was following up with us the next day saying he was going to go after us for us saying that. And I'm like, for calling you a dick? Like, that's not even something that is, I don't even think that's actionable. I'm pretty sure it's not actionable.
And if you don't
but
like
it was just, he was so fun. Like,
you know,
it was
again,
so ridiculous.
If you don't like somebody,
you're being a dick.
If you don't like somebody in the movement, then just let bygones be bygones. You know, if somebody,
well, that's what seems to be this
working.
Crazy thing. Seems to be this crazy thing that I cannot fathom as like a regular person who goes outside and has fun, whatever. Is that you would just build your whole ethos around coming after working class people. Maybe this like that's crazy to me.
Well, and this is someone who holds themselves out to be like the head of our local progressive group. So it's like, okay, well, that's fine. But if you're letting your stupid, petty childhood nonsense, which is really what this is ridiculous.
This goes on all over South Florida.
It is ridiculous.
This
so
is
like,
a big problem.
It's, well, I won't work with so-and-so and so-and-so. It's like junior high school.
Well,
and so these people, this is why we can't have nice things. And I will point out, Republicans don't do this.
Yeah.
No,
they don't.
I mean,
no.
I think there is some fair criticism of some of the people that were at the marches, and I get it.
100%.
Like,
So
like,
then you don't do one?
No, and that's what I'm getting
to.
And
Yeah.
you know, I don't think that like it's necessarily the most productive thing to be out there like literally like shaming the squad, or you know, like some people definitely go too far. I get that. You can criticize people. No one's above it. That being said, you, Jen, and I know Joy are both like very committed. Like, you support Nina Turner. You're not these crazy people that are like throw it all out in favor of fucking this, like, because there was this meme out here that like, oh well, this march only exists to demonize the squad, or this march is trying to take away attention from Nina Turner's campaign, or these ridiculous notions. But you guys embody the exact opposite of that. So it just blows my mind that even with your guys' involvement, he would still try to come after you. Again, completely unrelated to Jimmy Dore, in a totally different state, all the way across the country from where he lives. That's just so dumb. Like, what was his issue with it specifically?
And listen, you know, the problem with Jimmy, and this is an Irish thing. He doesn't know how to apologize, and he doesn't know how to accept responsibility for mistakes that he made. But I have no doubt that a lot of the ire that Jimmy has is really directed at Jeff. And there is this perception based on his previous relationship, where it stands today, but his previous relationship with Tim Canova, that we're all apart, we're all saboteurs, and we're all trying to hurt the movement, and being affiliated with us in any capacity is really bad.
We got screwed. We got essentially, we were ghosted by Jimmy because Tim was basically connecting Peter to Jeff.
Well, then
this is all ridiculous.
Wouldn't Jeff like you more then if you're ghosted by Jimmy? Like,
and no, that's what the depth of a pot stirrer. This is someone who there is no good side. It's not like he has a team and he's actually doing something productive for that team. He's just sitting there slamming everybody in every direction. We are trying to build bridges, build coalitions. We like doing crossovers. We like reaching more people. And I get crap all the time. Apparently, I'm being told by my producer that I don't read, just so people know, I don't read the comments because I can't see them. So you could say whatever you want to me. I don't see it. But apparently my producer is telling me that they're trashing me for being friendly with Vosh. You can all just go fuck off about that. and it's saying I told Nina to ignore Assange. And I will say something about that. I never said that. I never said Nina should ignore Assange. I said I didn't reach out to be in our telethon, in our event during her campaign. Didn't think it was a good idea for her to be at an Assange event. I never said she shouldn't support him. I never said she shouldn't speak out for him. I never said anything like that.
And this is the same thing about the people going absolutely berserk about the fact that she didn't make 4-hour drive to Columbus for the march. And it's like, she's talking about Medicare for all the time.
Day,
and if she gets affiliated with a group that they're already looking for a reason to throw her under
and
the
that's
bus.
The truth. And that's what you guys have to understand, is that most of these people that are trashing people, they've decided they don't like you and they're working backwards from their conclusion. They're going to find reasons not to like you. I get haters all the time. You want to hate me? Here, take your pick. I've been on Tim Pool's show. I've had Vosh on. I actually really like Vosh. Hate me like you want. But the reality is that anybody who criticizes people whom they associate when they're being true to their message, my message doesn't change no matter who I'm talking to. I can go on Tim Pool's show and I'm still going to talk about my things. And I can have Vosh on my show and I'm going to talk about my things. And it's just giving me a bigger audience. The problem with these people that are criticizing it is they like living in an echo chamber and they like everyone to agree with them all the time, 100%. And if someone doesn't, then you're done. And I don't work like that. If somebody agrees with me on this issue, I'll work with you on this issue. It doesn't mean I have to agree with you on something else.
Yeah.
Grow up, people.
Yeah. Well, that's a big thing that, we, at the Vanguard here, we try and always do a good job of having heterodox views on, it's like I said, the same way that I'll defend somebody for going on Fox News and reaching an audience of people that desperately need a message. How can you defend somebody for doing that and then turn around and be like, oh, this person that agrees with us on like way more shit is like, oh, why did, obviously we caused a little bit of a ruckus when we interviewed Ryan Grimm about the infrastructure bill, God forbid, this longtime Hill reporter that knows what the fuck he's talking about such things.
You dipped your toe on the inside. You're not allowed to do that.
And for those people who don't like Ryan Grimm, let me tell you something. He is as well connected in DC as anybody. And the fact that he's even willing to communicate with the grassroots movement, I mean, you guys,
it's a really, good connection. It is.
Like, you guys, you have to understand, and this is why there are people in the movement who make really, really poor decisions. And you have to understand that when you become too toxic, people just don't want to associate. And that opens up a great point about, the constant talk about the infighting, the things that get the clicks and the likes and the subscribers and all that jazz. I mean, to us, stories like what Gordon Jarreton is covering right now in Flint, Michigan with Governor Snyder, and the fact that there is a massive cover-up, and the fact that that is not getting the attention.
Because everybody's talking about TYT and Jimmy.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, those two are just going to knock each other out.
And yeah, it's entertaining. I'll give you that it's entertaining. But really, it's wasting our time. And we've got things to be doing. Like, that is just not worthy of time. We did take a stand against Anna Kasparian when she slammed Aaron Mate and Ronnie Kallick.
And she's terrible. She really is.
But that was more, I have a journalism background. I have a master's degree in journalism. Like, I have studied journalism. So I think I'm well equipped to understand who is and is not a journalist. And anybody that is going to smear and demean two actual journalists when we can count on like two hands the amount that we actually have anymore, like, it is just not acceptable. You know what I mean? Then you're a fraud.
And again, this gets back to the whole conversation we started with Assange, which is, if you allow a platform like TYT to say what they say, you're paid by the Russians, just this blanket statement, and allow it to go, allow that type of slam out there, just unification of saying, no, we're not having this. Then by that not happening, Anna feels emboldened to take the next step and say, Rania Callaghan.
Rania should check her sources. Oh my God. Rania does not need to check her sources, Anna.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I do agree with you guys. That being said, you know, I think if people have figured out, ourselves included, that if you can kind of cloak serious discussions in some packaging maybe that, you know, is a little bit more clickable to your average YouTube audience member, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, we cover a lot of substantive stuff on the show. We talk about, you know, whistleblowers. We talked about the extensively covered the Frito-Lay strike going on in our neighboring city of Topeka. But, you know, if we just put that in the title, let's be honest, it's not going to get as many views. This is YouTube. This is not, you know, some uber serious platform necessarily. And I don't think it's a bad thing that, you know, oh shit, now we have 1,000 people watching because we put a few, you know, keywords in the title to get it in the algorithm, you know, Jimmy Dore versus Sam Cedar, whatever. And hey, look, now we're having a serious substantive conversation about healthcare and how to get it. And guess what? 1,000+ people are now privy to our thoughts. So, you know, personally, I don't really see that as a bad thing. I see it more of us using to our advantage the platform that we're on.
No, it's not a bad thing for people that are actually covering substance. It's a bad thing when people are not covering substance, not giving Jordan airtime, not giving those things a platform in lieu of spending their time talking about the nonsense.
And I think you're definitely right about the algorithm and just being like, all right, well, listen, this is what's going to get people in. And as long as they're in, then we can talk about what we need to talk about, which is important. And that makes a lot more sense. And that's something that is attributable to, you know, what you what you guys have done, because you guys have done a great job. You know, you know, I saw the debate that you guys had between Ryan Knight and Ryan Grimm, and I thought that there was
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, there was definitely you know,
battle of the Ryans.
Yeah, seriously. But there was
hard to moderate that.
I'd rather Gosling and Reynolds, but you know.
That's a lady thing.
But yeah, ultimately, I think that sometimes the drama actually can further the conversation, because hear me out, you know, especially I think Force the Vote was a great instance of this, you know, and obviously I wish that there hadn't been all the drama. I wish that we would have unified as a left in favor and moved on. But as far as creating content that people want to watch, I think that actually, you know, probably brought in a lot of new people into this conversation of Medicare for all, and more importantly, how we get Medicare for all. What strategies should we embrace and what should we reject? And, you know, regardless of how much name calling there was and how ugly it got in that drama, at the if you boil it down, it was a very substantive debate, an extremely substantive debate about one of the most pressing issues facing this movement. So, you know, if people want to, like, you know, clutch their pearls about name calling, or, you know, this is ugly and I don't want to get in the muck and debase myself, then that's fine. You know, go somewhere else that's not YouTube. But YouTube is, I mean, it's kind of what it is.
And I also just piggyback onto that really quickly off of what Gavin was saying. I think that it's also, you have the big thing about it is that the YouTube algorithm promotes content based off of names more than it does actual news events. And so if you have a legacy following from when there was just so many people searching specific news events into the YouTube search bar, so places like the Young Turks, guys like Kyle Kalinske, whatever, they were able to build and manifest their following, and a guy like Kyle over years, man. I mean,
and we're not
when he started this shit. Right. But what he did was there were so many people that were brought in over time, and now all of his videos get blasted out to, you know, 900,000 subscribers. That creates a pool of individuals that will then click on it, right? Because it shows up for them. For all of us new media people, right? Gavin and I, you, Jen, we all started our podcast like the shittiest time to start a podcast, which was, you know, in the downturn, Joe Biden has accepted the nomination. Like, everybody feels defeated. Nobody knows where to turn. Like, oh, okay. Set it off, right? They're like, I'm not searching anymore. So the people that you do have access to are going to search subject, those people that they've already conditioned to be part of their media diet, and the only way to reach them is to put those names into the title. And now you have to reckon with my perspective, which I, you know, consider as more mild or whatever the fuck it is, as opposed to just getting those individuals' perspectives offered to you by YouTube over and over and over and over again.
No, and I think you're right. I mean, listen, you know, again, Jen in particular relationship with Vosh, but we broke with him on his take on Syria, and that's okay. You're allowed to disagree on these things, but there's so much of this. I mean, you want to call it cancel culture, and that's fine. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But
didn't Vosh try to cancel the Medicare for All marches because of Jimmy Dore's involvement in them? He seems like he's doing the same shit as Jeff Campbell was.
I think that here's what I would say.
There are a lot of people are doing it.
Here's what I would say. I think Jimmy is very controversial, and that's his style. That's what he likes to do.
Apparently, so is Vosh, which I still can't.
Vosh is too. I mean, he is.
I don't get it.
Well, because not all of his takes are perfect, and that's okay.
These are, but whose are? But
a lot of people who are in this world, there are egos involved. There is this desire to, be the top person. It's kind of like, who's going to get the big scoop and who's getting, the kudos for it and that type of thing.
I'll tell you what, when Jimmy Dore holds a 27-hour live stream, raises $300,000 for Palestinian children, then
that's fair.
Well, we can have that. We'll have the Vosh debate the next time you come on, Jen, because obviously Gavin and I, we have our criticisms of him. I don't want to with our last little bit.
And
of
it's
time,
fine. You can criticize anybody.
Oh, and we do. And I have criticisms of Ryan Grimm, who I also just was talking about how much I also have respect for the guy. And boil it down to it, like all this kind of online whatever. If Vosh scheduled a fucking Medicare for All march, I would, and it showed up across the country. Obviously, Gavin and I would both be there. We do have to get out of here just here pretty soon. So I wanted to get like a last message from you guys, maybe promoting your show. Where can people go to support you, find you on Twitter, all that sort of jazz. And then obviously we'd love to get you guys back on here.
Yeah.
Heck yes.
You should do it. He's got the good radio voice.
You guys are awesome. Just want to put that out there. There's who know how to cover the drama, and I think you guys do a very good job.
This is why I reached out. And I like that you gave Katie props.
Yeah, well, Katie's Katie.
Katie's Katie.
Yeah, Katie's the mama bear of the.
She co-hosted my Assange.
Yeah.
Love
all right,
Katie.
Brian, that's great to know. I did not.
That's very to know.
And you know what? I would give Jim a lot more credit. He does it in a way that isn't trying to put himself out there publicly, where he's basically doing it without looking for.
That's not. I don't even care about that.
No, but I respect that. I do respect that. Because a lot of people, especially in LA. All
right, tell people where to. So we're in South Florida. We're going to be washed out to sea soon.
Yeah, so try to make sure we have enough money to get the life raft. So Generational Change, it's on YouTube. But you can also find us on Spotify
and via Patreon.
Am I doing this?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but okay, but I got stick to say.
Apple Podcast. You can follow us on social media. JenFL23. That's Twitter and Instagram. JenPerelman on Facebook. And then if you're feeling generous, patreon.com/generational change. Now, for anybody who is a follower of Patreon, they will get one of the Lulu stickers. Which is really
any new Patreons now get the Lulu sticker, and $5 Patreons get the hemp bracelet, and $10 Patreons get the jersey. Well,
I don't have the jersey on.
He's not wearing the jersey. We have a jersey. But that's the stuff. We've got good merch, but you get the Lulu sticker.
But if you know just the content that we cover a lot of very important stories, but we also have some entertainment that we do provide that I think a lot of people enjoy. And so, for example, if you just want to hear the Senator for Vermont come in, everybody know what the important issues are, I recommend that you watch the Vanguard. It is a wonderful show, and in the heartland of America, it is very important that we talk about these important issues. They happen every day.
I know you like Kansas City, right?
Well, Kansas City is a wonderful city. Did you know that I won the primary in Kansas?
No, I didn't. I know that there's a lot of good barbecue there.
He did win the primary in Kansas in 2016. That was dope.
Yeah, we do different bits. Oh no, not that.
That's a great Bernie, by the way.
But I will tell you guys right now, let me explain something to you. It is totally not true. I did not pocket that $75 million.
Yes, you did.
It went right into the foundation and then goes to, technically, I didn't take that money. You can't prove it. It's totally not provable. It's fake news. And believe me when I tell you, Ron DeSantis, he's totally not going to be taking over the party. It's still my party, and I'll cry if I want to, whenever I want to, and I'm still going to win in 2024. Believe me when I tell you. Tremendous.
Great stuff, guys. That's actually
those are them all.
Okay, fine.
Anyway, thanks so much for coming on tonight, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. We really appreciate it, guys. And obviously, everyone go sub to Generational Change. It is a really good channel. You guys really are doing a lot of substantive reporting, not getting in the muck like us over here. So
no,
you guys deserve.
the truth is, I don't know how. And quite honestly, guys, I'm too old for that shit.
You guys do a great job of just
and that is a big part of it.
And this, and you just kick back. You're like, listen, we're not getting in the middle of it, but we're letting you know what's
really
going on.
He would more so than I will. He'll try to start getting into it, and I'm like, stop it. I don't want to. I'm too old for this.
Well, if you guys want to see us again this evening, we are actually going to be on with Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report at 9 p.m. time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Pacific Standard Time.
We love Mike.
Yes,
Mike's a sweetheart. Super nice guy.
He really is. He's one of the truly great guys.
What he did about the Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz press conference being ruined by the hecklers. Watch Mike doing that. He laughs so hard that he's crying that it just makes the thing even so much funnier. I highly recommend. Quite good.
I'll check it out. Mike's a sweet guy. We love him. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. We appreciate it. It was a great catching up.
Guys. We'll see you soon.
Obviously, if you guys ever have some shit to talk, you know where to come.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.